This is Still a Part of Us, a podcast where moms and dads share the story of their child who was stillborn or who died in infancy. I'm Winter Red, and in this episode of Advice and Encouragement from a Lost Mom, I chat with Jen, whose daughter, Jordan, was born full term and died after one day due to a cardiac defect that was missed on all these other ultrasounds. By the way, you can hear Jen's and her husband Jem's episodes about the birth of their child on episodes 58 and 60. Today, we discuss with Jen how she encourages people to talk about her daughter even though it may feel awkward, and not just to ignore the situation. And also, if people are offering to help, let them, if you're in this situation of loss. As a word of caution to our listeners, this discussion contains emotional triggers of stillbirth and infant loss. Please keep yourself emotionally and mentally healthy and seek help if needed. Hope this helps someone out there today. Jen, we are so glad that you are back on again to chat with us about Jordan and your experience this last 8 months or so mourning your daughter. And so thank you so much for sharing her birth story and your experience, and then also coming on and chatting with us again. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
So a little bit of context. Can you tell us how long ago Jordan was born and passed away?
She was born on November 29th, 2019, which was Black Friday, and she died the next morning on the November 30th.
Okay. And so it's been about 8 months or so. By the time this episode comes out, it'll almost be a year, I think, when that happened. How have you been? How has that looked for you? You're still very new in this having that grief be so fresh, I feel like.
Yes, it does feel still very raw. Overall, I feel like I'm doing okay in that I get out of bed every day. I take care of my girls. I go shopping. I do all the things I have to do. And in general, I feel like I'm doing as well as I can.
You mentioned getting up every day and taking care of your girls because you are at this present time stay-at-home parent. And so did you feel like that helped, having your girls there to kind of get you going, I guess?
I really do feel like it helped. And I remember going to, before COVID, one of the support groups at the hospital where I delivered, and there were some parents there that had lost their first pregnancy. And of course, loss is loss and there's no comparison, but I was just thinking that would have made things so hard if I didn't have my girls to keep me busy, and they've definitely helped me a lot. And I haven't tried to hide when I'm upset. Like my younger daughter, we know you're sad about Jordan. And I said, thank you. Yeah, I said, do you feel sad? No. So, just the honesty.
Yeah.
But no, definitely glad that they keep me busy and they make me laugh. So I'm so glad I have them.
Yeah, that is a huge blessing. Our daughter, Lucy, was 3.5 when our son passed away. And it helped us get back into a routine. It was like, okay, we had our time to just be really sad and just not do anything. And then it was like, we got to get her doing something or else she's going to go crazy.
Right.
So how do you, despite all of the responsibilities you have of being a wife and a mother, and how do you let yourself mourn and remember? Or do you try and take some time for yourself and think about her?
I do. I try to take time. I mean, I look at pictures of her every day. I do try to, I was going to the support group and that did help, but that was only once a month.
Right.
And then there's some online support groups. And then I just recently joined one that's a little more structured, and there's a plan for physical wellness and sleeping well. And it's all these things. So I decided to do that because it is hard to take care of yourself, because in some ways you just feel like you don't care about anything, and then like, wait a minute, no, I do care about my girls. I do care about myself. So I do try to take time just to cry. It feels good. I look at pictures and videos, and once I'm every month where she should have been, 2 months old or 3 months old. My
Yeah.
husband and I always take time in the evening and we look at her pictures and just talk about some things. And so yeah, we've tried one month he got me flowers on that day. Didn't expect that, but I do try to take time. And I've had some pictures printed, but it's hard to actually like put them up, trying to decide what I want to do with them.
Yeah.
So,
It is hard when you're like, okay, I want to do something, but how? What's the best way?
right.
So you did have in your previous episode, you had talked about how you had her cremated. So because you wanted her home, you wanted her to be close. So is she in an urn in your home somewhere? Is it close by?
Yes, she's in an urn that I bought off of Amazon, but they make really nice urns and it's wooden, like hand carved. It's
Oh,
really pretty. Of course, it's very small. I didn't care for any of the ones from the funeral home.
yeah,
So I picked that urn and she's right next to my bed.
nice.
And it's been alarming when my younger daughter has run in there and grabbed the urn and ran around the house with it. So that's happened twice. So, but I don't want to put it too far away, but she knows that she knows that it's Jordan.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that would be, huh?
right.
But you do want it. I always feel like that would be nice to have close by, so they maybe can acknowledge that that was their little
Right.
sister. So, and then do you have any other things that you displayed? It sounds like your pictures are not quite. You haven't figured out what you want to do with pictures, but anything else? Like you mentioned that you brought home, the little outfit, one of the outfits that you had put her in. Is that in
Mhm.
just a little box, like a keepsake box, or do you have that up?
I just have that right next to her urn,
Oh, okay.
not displayed. Something else they did when we did her final bath, they did the imprints, the molds of her hands
Oh,
and her
good.
feet,
Yeah.
and it includes that little stub she had off of her
Yeah.
thumb.
Yeah.
So that's in the house. I have that in our living room, and they did give me a box. That's what you leave the hospital with, and it had some other blankets and things. And I'm like, why are they giving this to me? I never had her with this. Well, when I went to the first support group meeting, they gave me an envelope with pictures they had taken. I don't know where I was, but with other blankets and
Oh,
things. So I'm like, oh, that's why they gave me that blanket. It was
gotcha.
they used it in these pictures. So yeah, I do have the blanket. They gave me, I cut off a little bit of her hair. She had so much hair. I'm like, I should have cut off more, but I just have a little baggie of her hair. And she wasn't around that long. I kept a little bottle of shampoo and body wash.
Oh, yeah. That's so
Um,
sweet.
otherwise I have, oh, so when your baby's in the NICU, they make just a neat sign with their name.
Uh-huh.
So for her memorial service, we got like just a standing cardboard thing and we put the name on there with some pictures we had printed. So I have that in my room.
Oh,
That's
okay.
probably my favorite thing is her name.
Yeah. I think that's so cool and nice that the NICU does that. That's kind of a little special
Yeah,
something.
they do. There's all kinds of things in the box from other bereaved parents. So it was nice to get all those little things like that. A candle, notebook, trying to, a pen, trying to remember what else. Just other little things. Oh, slippers,
Wow.
stuff like that.
So they actually, with that box and with all the other little mementos of Jordan's, but they also gave you stuff as well, kind of
Right,
a parent to parent kind of a situation.
right.
That's pretty cool. Like
Mm,
that's nice to know that there's people that are trying to make it a little easier and have gone through this too.
Yep, I thought so too. Like, what a nice way to honor your child and to get their name out there, which is what, your podcast is all about too. You just don't want things to feel forgotten.
Yeah,
So usually there
exactly.
was like the one blanket had a note and in memory of, I think they had lost twins.
Oh,
But it was nice to see these little personal touches and, people, you're not the only one that this has happened to.
yeah. Yeah, it makes it feel less lonely. So that's
Right.
really neat that your hospital did that or does that right now. So,
Hmm.
um that's pretty great. So you mentioned that you have done the kind of the monthly grief support groups at the hospital. Obviously COVID prohibiting now, I'm assuming because that's the
Right.
same thing with our our local stuff. It's all online now.
Right.
Any other things? Are you seeing a counselor or doing anything to help you and maybe you as a couple, you and your husband?
Not seeing a counselor, but other group I joined.
Yeah.
She's a grief support coach.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she's got like an online course that you go through. And I've only started that 2 weeks ago, and I already feel like that's making a big
Oh,
difference.
that's great. Okay. And so and is it just for you, the mom?
Yes.
Okay. So you're just going through it yourself, and that's great because I think just some sort of support is helpful to walk through those. Yeah, and you mentioned that you're like taking care of yourself physically, and like it really
Right.
makes a huge difference. I remember when we first got home, there was something in our box that was like, these are the 10 things you should make sure you do as a lost parent every day. Have you taken a shower? Okay,
Right.
check that off. Have you eaten
Right.
something nutritious? Okay, check that off.
Right. Like, I'm not doing too bad today.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Yeah, exactly.
hmm
So we've all run into this, and I'm curious to know if your experiences hasn't been any different. Have you had anything that has someone has said that you probably would encourage people not to say to somebody that has experienced a loss? Your loss is very unique, where your baby came and was born, but then it was so quick. Like you didn't even have her for 2 days. Even it was 27 hours, right?
Right.
And so anything that you would encourage people not to say or would be best not to say.
I actually haven't had, it hasn't been that bad. I was kind of bracing myself for the at least comments, at least this and this. And that didn't ever really happen. I would say far more than people saying maybe the wrong thing or I didn't love it. I feel like I can get over that. But what's hurt me the most is people that said nothing.
Oh, really? They
There
didn't.
were people that never reached out, like that I thought would have, or
Mhm.
something that I didn't hear anything from, and I know that they knew.
Yeah.
So that's been a lot for me. People did have said, like, well, I know they're trying. At least they said something. It's better to me than just
Mhm.
totally ignoring it. I just don't understand how you can say nothing.
Yeah.
I know that it makes people uncomfortable, but imagine how the parent feels.
Yeah.
Like,
They hate
no,
it. We hate
right? We really hate it.
it. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That is hard to not even have some sort of acknowledgement that your daughter was born and
Right.
that you're going through this. Yeah, that's so hard. On the flip side, I'm actually wondering if there's anything that anybody did or it said anybody said that really was super tender for you, super special, that was really thoughtful.
There was well, in the beginning, so many people, I got so many cards and even online, her obituary. And I mean, of course, I've sent sympathy cards before, but at least for me, I still, like I said, how my husband and I take time every month at least. I always go through those cards. I read them pretty often, and I never, I've never gone through severe loss like this. So I'm so glad that I have those cards that I have thought about, but never put that much thought into. I mean, yes, I put thought into when I'm writing it, but I don't no never thought anyone would ever keep it.
Yeah. Yeah, I we have kept all of our cards too. I there
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's just something that you just want to that's another way to feel connected, I think to
Yeah.
to that experience to your child. So that's pretty cool that you go through those. And I know it makes me now I have like a totally different point of view of yeah, sympathy cards
Completely.
and like what I say to people because I was like, okay, I know I have said terrible things before, not meaning to, but just not thinking about it. So,
Right.
yeah.
And especially because the loss of a baby is so unexpected and unnatural that people are they're shocked. And I think your husband said this in one of the first podcasts is you get that look of pity, and people don't mean anything by it, but sometimes you just don't want to deal with the pity.
Yeah.
But even now I just feel thankful whenever I hear people mention her at all. Every now and then I get a card, of course not that much anymore, but something where someone mentions her or they thought of her, or they think of her a lot, and that just, that always makes my day, if not my week.
Yeah.
Um, and I had friends come in from out of town for her service. And then one really nice gift that someone got for me was 2 house cleanings. Like, that was a really good idea. It was my friends that I knew from Taiwan. So I'm like, that was a really good gift. That was really nice.
Extremely practical because you really just don't wanna do anything, like,
Right.
that is cool. That is a great everybody make a note of that.
Right. So like even basic cards, a lot of people actually gave us like financial assistance. I didn't expect that. Like I've never given anyone like money at a time like this, but like even small amounts, it was nice because yeah, you don't really feel like cooking or
Yeah,
it was just s- so many people were just very, very thoughtful.
yeah. Yeah, isn't that so cool to feel like the people are great. People are good.
Right.
People are so good. They just wanna support, and I think it's helps me with humanity and
Right.
So, your husband, Jim, he is from Taiwan and, is he a Jehovah's Witness also?
Yes, he
Oh,
is.
okay,
But
so
his family is not.
he's not. Okay, so he is. And I'm wondering, how you guys have dealt with the loss together. Like, how's that been for him separately, and then just how have you guys dealt with that as a couple?
I think it's been okay. Like in the beginning, just those first few days, I felt like he was doing, I don't know, worse, if you can say that, than me. Just he was so quiet. I think he was just stunned. So I was talking and crying and like everything, and he just wasn't really saying too much of anything. So at first, I just felt very worried about him. Um, and then, of course, he had to go back to work and everything. He says that going to work helps him.
Mhm.
And so he works for a termite company.
Mhm.
So he goes into people's houses and people always make chit chat. And he told me, oh, yeah, people ask me all the time about how many kids I have. And I always say three. And I was just really glad to hear that because I didn't know what he would say.
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
So,
I know you never quite know how your spouse is doing because
right.
it can shake them so differently than it does you, so
But yeah, I mean, some people in his family never really said anything about it, which I just think is kind of, they don't like to talk about sad things.
yeah.
So that makes me angry. He doesn't care, So for him, I think that he's actually expressed himself pretty well, considering that's just not the way he was raised,
Yeah.
to wallow, like
Right.
sometimes I felt like I want to do.
Yeah. Jordan was born on Black Friday. She passed away the day after the Saturday. And
hmm
did he just go back to work on Monday?
No, he contacted his boss, who was really nice. He said, "Okay, just take your time." I said, "Because it was the end of the year and he still
Mhm.
had a few sick days." And so he had 3 days of bereavement and then a couple of sick days to use. I think he ended up with something like a week and a half off,
Oh, good. Okay. That's
which
something.
felt like something. Yeah, I was glad that we even had that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, if he went back on Monday, that'd be just awful. I
no,
would
thank
be
goodness.
I
Yeah,
know.
no, he didn't.
Okay, well, good. Have you, just in this entire process, have you had any, realizations about anything, involving Jordan's death or just how you are viewing the whole experience? Has that changed in the last 8 months?
I go up and down, of course. Sometimes I just feel so much self-pity or I feel even more pity for my girls, but I really try to just be grateful for what I had. I'm glad I even got to have her the whole time. I'm glad I didn't deliver her at home because that would have been a really bad outcome and I would have had no idea what happened.
Yeah, and I was gonna
Um,
say, and that could have easily been a possibility since she came so quickly.
right. Yeah, 15 minutes after the hospital. So it really could have happened. And then if she would have most certainly died if I would have had her at home right away,
Mhm.
and then, police are involved, it would have been a nightmare. So um, I I try to be grateful. That's probably what helps me the most is focus on what I do have. I have my girls. I do have three girls, even if only two are alive. I do have three, and I'm glad that I had five for 5 minutes. Everything was perfect.
Yeah. That's nice to at least latch onto and kinda remember that little skin to skin time that you had with her and
hmm
hanging out with her. you will almost be a year from when she passed away. Are you, I believe Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate birthdays. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, we don't celebrate birthdays.
Okay.
But I do, and of course, it's going to be a hard time
Yeah.
because she died the very next day.
Yeah.
So I don't know when we hit the 6-month mark. That was May, and we went camping for a few days. I just wanted to be kind of out and having fun, but not really reachable. So I'm not sure. I know I had wanted to go back to Taiwan, but now, I mean, who knows how that's going to happen?
Right. Yeah.
Taiwan has done very well with COVID, but
Mm-hmm.
they have the really strict 2-week quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
So I could get there, but I don't want to spend 2 weeks in quarantine. So
Mm-hmm.
I had kind of thought about that. Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do. I wanted to go somewhere, do something, but I'm not sure how that's going to happen.
Yeah. I know it's so
Maybe,
frustrating, isn't it?
yeah, it is so frustrating. Maybe we'll go back to where we went hiking that last day that I was pregnant with her. Maybe we'll go back there because I haven't been able to go back there since. So maybe we'll go there because feels like the last big thing we did together.
Yeah. 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 That would be nice. And you felt great. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that might be something that you could possibly do during this kind of funny time that we've had in 2020.
Right.
So
Yeah, we could drive there and hike. I think assuming they haven't closed that.
yeah. Yeah. Any last bit of advice that you would give to parents that have maybe gone through something similar to your experience? And I'm even talking like as a mom of a NICU baby, or just as a lost mom in general. Any last thoughts?
Mostly, I think if people are offering to help, just say yes and let them because no one really knows what to do. So if someone wants to help, let them help in the way that works for you. Trying to think what else. It's hard. There's things that I wish I would have known, but you don't ever anticipate. You don't study up on what to do in case things go wrong.
Yeah.
For me, something that helped me is I wrote some letters to her. I wrote letters to her doctors and my OB, and I just wanted to thank them for taking care of her and everything they did, and that helped me. Writing is something that has helped me. Just put things down on paper. And don't listen to people that think that you need to be over it or that there's some time frame.
Yeah. That is for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. I like that you wrote some thank you notes, thank you letters to those people that were involved, and that's just a nice way to just acknowledge who helped and who was there for her life, right?
Right. And I've thought about that. Should I, go back maybe when she's a year old or send them another letter or something? I don't know. Maybe I'll do that every year. I don't know what we're going to do.
Okay. Well, Jen, thank you so much. This was wonderful and super, super enlightening. I really appreciate your time and sharing Jordan with us.
Thank you. So glad I got to talk about her.
Yeah. A huge thank you to Jen for just talking about how she's dealt with the loss of her daughter and that entire situation, how she and her husband have coped and how they are as a family. And we really, really just appreciate her time and just good advice, some great, great advice that we heard today. Once again, you can head over to our website, stillapartofus.com, and you can find the show notes there. You can sign up for our short and helpful email newsletter, and you can also figure out how to become a patron and support us in what it takes to do this podcast every single month. And lastly, where you can find out how to get in touch with us if you want to share the story of your child on the show. The show was produced and edited by Winter and Lee Red. Thanks to Josh Woodward for letting us use his song Vanishing Note. You can find him at joshwoodward.com. Lastly, subscribe to this podcast and share it with a friend that might need it and tell them to subscribe. Why? Because people need to know that even though our babies are no longer with us, they're still a part of us.
I may not have gone where I intended to go, but I think I have ended up where I need to be. Douglas Adams.